I personally believe that Port Charles is currently sitting on a massive powder keg, and the impending return of Ethan Lovett might just be the spark that sets the entire town ablaze, quite literally. While many fans are understandably excited to see Robert Scorpio and Holly Sutton's son back in the mix, I feel a deep sense of unease about the timing. In my opinion, what is being framed as a joyful reunion is actually the perfect setup for one of the most devastating tragedies we've seen in years. This is just my interpretation, but I think the upcoming welcome home party for Ethan isn't going to be a celebration, it's going to be a death trap. I might be wrong, but I feel like we are ignoring the dark clouds gathering over this event. General Hospital has a long storied history of turning high society gatherings into scenes of absolute carnage, and I suspect this time will be no different. I think the writers are intentionally leaning into the nostalgia of Ethan's return to blindside us with a catastrophic fire that could rewrite the canvas of the show. From what I've gathered, Ethan's return marks the re-emergence of a character who has always lived in the shadow of the legendary Luke Spencer. When I think about Ethan, I see a man who carries the Spencer wildcard energy, but with a distinct roguish charm that often gets him into deep water. I personally believe his homecoming is going to trigger a domino effect of emotional reunions, but I can't help but feel that each of these connections adds another person to the potential victim list. The Christina connection. I feel like the dynamic between Ethan and Christina Corinthos Davis is one of the most underrated threads in the show's history. I think Christina might be genuinely stunned to see him, but I suspect Ethan might be looking for more than just a quick hello. In my opinion, he might want to rekindle a flame that never quite burned out. Or, I could be wrong, and he simply wants a friendly ear to lean on after his time away. Regardless, putting Christina in Ethan's orbit right now feels like putting her directly in the line of fire. Tracy and the ghost of Luke. Spencer. I think Tracy Quartermain seeing Ethan will be a punch to the gut. To Tracy, Ethan isn't just a friend, he is a living, breathing piece of Luke. I personally believe that seeing Ethan's face will trigger a wave of grief and nostalgia for her late husband that she wasn't prepared for. I feel like Tracy will have a lot to say to him, perhaps even seeking closure through him. The family bond. Then there's Lulu. I think Lulu's desire to reconnect with her half-brother is purely heart-driven, but it makes the stakes so much higher. If my theory about a fire is correct, having the Spencer siblings under one roof is a recipe for a heartbreak that Port Charles might not recover from. I might be wrong, but I think Laura Collins is making a massive tactical error by organising this party. I feel like her maternal instincts and her desire for family unity are clouding her judgment. In my opinion, Laura is so focused on welcoming Ethan back that she's completely oblivious to the fact that her family has never been more vulnerable. I personally believe that celebrations in Port Charles are synonymous with disaster. I think we can all agree that whenever the elite gather at the Metro Court or the Savoy, someone usually ends up in the ICU. I feel like this party is being served up on a silver platter for the villains currently lurking in the shadows. I think the air in Port Charles is currently thick with the tension that the characters are ignoring, but we as viewers can feel it in our bones. Now, this is where my personal interpretation gets a bit more complex. I personally believe that the danger isn't just general trouble. I think it's highly specific. I feel like the conflict involving Sidwell is reaching a boiling point. However, I might be wrong, but I don't think Sidwell is the only one we should be looking at. Enter Cullum. This is a character I feel is far more dangerous than he lets on. From what I've observed, Cullum has a massive secret, the murder of Sidwell's son, Marco, a few weeks ago. I personally believe Cullum is terrified that the truth will come out, and a cornered animal is always the most dangerous. I suspect that Cullum's primary goal right now is to keep Sidwell distracted. What better way to stop an investigation than to create a massive citywide catastrophe? I feel like Cullum might be the one to actually strike the match. My theory on the sabotage, the diversion. I think Cullum wants Sidwell to remain the prime suspect for everything. The setup. I personally believe Cullum could secretly start the fire at Ethan's party and leave behind just enough evidence to frame Sidwell. The outcome. I suspect that while Sidwell might actually have his own plans for revenge, he could end up being the fall guy for Cullum's much more desperate act of arson. I might be wrong, but I think this villain versus villain dynamic is going to result in the innocent guests at the party, Sonny, Ethan, Laura, Christina, becoming collateral damage. I think we have to talk about Sonny. In my opinion, Sonny's interest in Ethan is far from social. I suspect Sonny wants to meet with Ethan because Ethan has mentioned the word revenge. I feel like Sonny is looking for allies, but I personally believe his presence at the party only increases the likelihood of a violent confrontation. If Sidwell or Cullum are looking to send a message, I think Sonny is the loudest speaker they can use. I might be wrong, but I feel like the chaos of a fire provides the perfect cover for an assassination attempt. If my interpretation of these events holds true, I think we are looking at a Red Wedding style event for General Hospital. I personally believe that several characters will be injured and the psychological scars will last for years. I think the fire will force Ethan to prove he is a hero, perhaps saving Christina or Lulu at great personal cost. I feel like Tracy will be forced to step up in a way we haven't seen in a long time, perhaps being the one to finally see through Cullum's lies. In my opinion, the fallout of this fire will lead to a massive investigation where Sidwell is wrongly accused, allowing the true snake, Cullum, to slide away at least for a while. I might be wrong, but I think the writers are setting up a long-term mystery regarding who actually set the fire. Even if the characters think they know, I suspect the audience will be left with a chilling reveal that it was someone they least expected. I know many fans just want a happy reunion. They want to see Ethan smile, drink some Guinness, and catch up with old friends. But I personally believe that happiness is a rare commodity in Port Charles. I think it's much more likely that this party will be remembered as the night the Spencer legacy almost burned down. This is just my interpretation, and I could be totally off base. Maybe it will just be a nice party with a minor argument, but I feel like the stakes are too high for that. I personally believe that Bi Tragedy is coming, and Ethan Lovett is the unwitting catalyst for it all. I might be wrong, but I think we should all keep our fire extinguishers handy, metaphorically speaking, because things are about to get very, very hot. What do you think? I feel like the tension is unbearable, and I suspect we're only days away from the explosion. Again, this is just my opinion, but I'd keep a very close eye on Cullum while everyone else is watching Sidwell.